Hello and welcome to the Internal Comms podcast with me, Katie McCauley. If you are interested in how we can make colleagues feel more informed, inspired, energised, involved at work, then you are in exactly the right place. Every fortnight, I sit down with a leading comms practitioner, consultant, author or academic, and together we tease out ways to make communication at work, well, really work. I am super excited on a very personal level about this show. My guest today is Colin Archer, Head of Communication at the global engineering giant, the Spirax Group. Now, this initiative that we're talking about today is, I think, one of the boldest, bravest, most innovative programs I've ever seen. It isn't a new tool or a new platform or a new campaign. It is a new way of thinking about how we communicate inside our organisations. And I feel very lucky in that I've played a small part in supporting the programme since its very inception. So without further ado, let me introduce Colin Archer. Colin, welcome to the Internal Comms podcast. It's a real pleasure to have you here.
Hi, Katie. It's a real pleasure to be here. Quite humbling as well after 6 years of this show now, isn't it?
Yeah, we are here to talk about something very important that I think is going to be of great interest to everyone watching and listening. Before we get going, let's start with your organisation. People may not have heard of the Spirax Group, but give a little overview of the organisation that you work for currently.
Yeah, sure. So the Spirax Group is actually probably one of those biggest organisations that most people have never heard of. And I was the same when I first started looking at the opportunity to work there. It's a global engineering company. And what we do is really to provide the solutions that touch everybody's everyday life. So the solutions that we provide sit behind food manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, hospitals, all of the kind of things that you kind of imagine every day, textiles, brewing, anything like that.
Yeah.
And what we do is we help our clients to make those solutions that we provide more efficient, more safe. So we help them to eliminate waste and we help them to be more sustainable.
Yeah. So a really important part of the engineering process that's embedded into so many other things.
Yeah. That's absolutely right.
Exactly. The communicating organisation is your brainchild. Was there a moment when there was a light bulb moment when you thought, this is something I really need to do inside this organisation? Because presumably you started off with a comms strategy. Did it emerge from that strategy, this idea, this big idea?
Well, I think we have to go back a little bit and talk about how I came to this idea.
Okay.
Because I came to the idea and then found the organisation. So it was kind of the other way around.
Yes.
So I was previously working in another organisation, and it was one of those kind of partings of ways that was, mutually agreed, but left me feeling I didn't really know what I was going to do next. And it coincided with the time that we were just beginning the renovation on a property that we'd bought. Mm-hmm. And so it was quite helpful because I was able to do a lot of the planning, put the suppliers in line. And it was on one cold January day when I was standing in a trench for our new foundations with our builder, trying to put some steel rods into the right place, that I kind of thought, I don't really want to do this. What I want to do is something else. And so as I was standing there, I began to think, well, what do I want to do?
Right.
And I realised that what I wanted to do was what internal comms for me has always been about.
Okay.
And that is that I think if we think about work, most people spend at least 8 hours a day at work.
Yes.
You've got 8 hours of sleep and 8 hours to do what you want with, but 8 hours a day at work, that's a long time and a lot of your life.
Yes.
So for me, internal comms is about making that 8 hours a day time well spent. It's about feeling that you're contributing to something having a sense of engagement with it, feeling fulfilled when you come home at the end of the day. It's all of those things. And that's what internal comms does for me. And so I realized standing there that actually I wanted my role to be one where I could do that, where I could make that difference for people's lives, people's working lives every single day. And where for the last however many years I've been doing internal comms, let's not count them, where I always had that in my mind as like, that's what I'm here for. I never really understood it. I never kind of put it together and went, my goodness, that is what this job is about. It's about making a difference every day to people's lives. And it kind of got big and scary at that point.
Ah, okay.
So what I thought about was, well, I need to go work for an organization that will allow me to bring the best of internal communications practice in service of that goal.
Right.
So I kind of discovered my own personal purpose at work. And then I realized that I needed to work for an organization where my sense of purpose could align with their sense of purpose.
Yes.
And I found the Spirax Group, which is, where we've just been talking about. I head up comms for the steam thermal solutions part of that business. And we aspire to become more purpose-led. It takes a long time. But in conversation with our managing director and our then head of HR, I realized that this is the place I could do this. So the communicating organization is a part of the comms strategy that I put in place. But first, it needed that sense of purpose.
Yes.
It needed the sense of purpose in the organization, but also at a personal level to allow it to align so that then I could think about, so how do we make that work?
Yes.
That's quite a long way of explaining how I came about it. But the strategy that I put in place was to deliver those things.
Yes, yes. This episode of the Internal Comms podcast is sponsored by Work Vivo. Now, if you work in internal communications, you know how hard it is to keep everyone aligned, especially when communication is spread across disconnected tools. It makes campaigns harder to run, and it's even harder to see what is actually landing. That's where Work Vivo comes in. Work Vivo is an AI native employee experience platform that brings communication, culture, knowledge, and measurement into one connected space, helping communicators reach every employee from HQ to the front line and measure the impact that they're making. So join some of the world's biggest brands shaping their culture with Work Vivo. To learn more, simply visit workvivo.com. That's workvivo.com. We need to talk about what the communicating organisation is, because I feel that people are going to say, okay, well, what is this exactly?
Yeah.
I also want to ask you, though, about why it works here, because I think it's counterintuitive in some ways to think, oh, it's an engineering organisation full of people with that kind of left brain thinking that understands systems and processes and blueprints. And you're talking about something which is essentially a big idea. And at the time when you were talking about it, an untested concept in some way, because you're breaking new ground. But let's start with what the communicating organisation is before we go any further. How would you describe it?
The simplest way I think about this is it activates that thing, that sense that you get when you're part of a team and you're all working together and you've got a shared sense of what it is that we're here to do. We've all had that moment. We've all had that moment where it just seems to click. The people around you, you all understand what you're all working on together, and it's almost instinctive that you know what you need to do together in order to get there. That's the sense I want the communicating organisation to deliver. So working back from there, the sense of purpose, the connection to the organization's purpose is really important. And building that as the first part of the communication strategy is the prerequisite.
Yes, yes.
Because without that, then you can't have a team come together and click.
Exactly.
The next thing that you need is the culture. So you need a supportive, empowering and inclusive culture.
Yes.
Where everybody can be a part of that team. Then the communicating organization layers over the top of that, or perhaps layers through it.
Yeah.
Because that's the lateral flow.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a sense of connection to purpose, a personal thing that drives you, and if you've got a culture that allows you to make the best of yourself and to contribute your best ideas, you need a mechanism by which that team can come together and share. So the communicating organization does that. It allows people to build networks laterally across the organization to inspire innovation, to get that sense of connection to other people, that generates motivation in its own right, but then also to share knowledge and best practice instinctively, because people seem to know who needs that piece of knowledge or where to go to find it.
Such a great idea. Such a great idea. The heart of this, the beating heart of this is your connectors, isn't it? That you identify a small number of people, it doesn't have to be that many, that you are going to equip with the tools, the skills, the motivation to be the nodes, if you like, within the network. Can you talk a little bit about whether I've got that right? Is that how you describe connectors? And then crucially, then how do you actually pick them? How do you identify them?
Yeah, they are absolutely crucial to the way that we're thinking about internal communications. So, and you know, this is not new thinking. I don't think. We all know that there are influential colleagues in our organizations.
Yes.
Internal influencers, they've been called. But they're the people that drive the conversation.
Yes.
And they are the ones that help to shape what people think. They're the ones that always seem to know what's going on first. Or they're the ones that can tell you what it really means when you've just come out of that town hall and your leadership communication didn't quite make sense or land quite right.
Yes.
They're the ones who can figure it out for people and go, well, yeah, what that means is they kind of do the job that we think middle managers are doing.
Yeah.
In setting context and making meaning. But they're not middle managers.
No.
They are people in the organization that always just seem to have the inside track. So what we did was to go and find those people. And they're not usually in the leadership team.
No.
They're not usually a manager. They're just people who seem to get it.
Yes.
And they operate at all kinds of different levels in all kinds of different places. But we wanted to figure out who they were. And then we wanted to help them to build a network themselves. And we also wanted to help them to be able to communicate really well. So to build that communications capability to kind of to enhance, really, I guess, what they were already doing and to spread the stuff that they already know, to spread the knowledge, to spread the expertise, but also to share across the organization in a way that is more authentic than the cascade.
Yes.
Because as we know from Edelman's Trust Barometer, that sense of belief in what you are told by your boss and by their boss and whoever is more senior in the organization is eroding.
Yes.
But actually what's taking its place is the belief in what your colleague, your peer tells you.
Yeah.
So we wanted to tap into that change that we see happening in society, as well as being able to connect with these people who are already driving the conversation.
And I want to just reinforce something there as well. This isn't just about those connectors connecting with other people, sharing ideas and messages. Crucially, they're listening as well, aren't they?
Absolutely.
And they're feeding information, ideas, opinion back into the centre as well.
Yeah.
It's a two-way flow of communication.
It really is two-way, because without that ability for those people who are usually fairly outspoken anyway to really say what they think and feel, then actually they don't want to be involved.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So having found the right people,
yes,
and then equipped them with the ability to build their networks organically and to communicate in the right sorts of ways, giving them, thinking about how you communicate in line with our values, and also to be able to talk about what's going on. We have to be able to listen.
Yeah.
And that's giving us deep insight into what's really bothering people in the organisation.
Wow.
It's giving us fantastic views in terms of what will make a difference for engagement. What do people care about? And how should we, as an organisation, respond to that and react to it in terms of those leadership communications, which we still have to have.
Yes.
But it's giving us the ability to do that. So one of the things that is really important in that connector model is direct access to senior leadership.
Right.
So that's one of the things that we do for them on a regular basis. We have a monthly call where our connectors can say, we want to talk to.
Yep.
And
Love
we'll
it.
bring in that leader to talk to them about whatever it is that's bothering them, that they want to know more about. And we'll prepare the senior leader. I mean, clearly they know what's going on with the communicating organisation and what it is. So we'll prepare them with background, who's going to be on the call, what do they want to talk about, why do they want to talk about it. And those conversations are usually without PowerPoint slides.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they are a conversation. So our leader will come along, they'll talk about the issue that they want to talk about, and it's open for questions. So it's a really strong discussion. And we prepare our connectors, who, as I've said before, are not in leadership positions. They're not line managers. So what we've done is, in terms of their capability building, is to think about what will give them the confidence to speak in those situations and what will allow them to make their point in a respectful way, but still challenging. So our leadership teams are getting great value from that insight that they get directly.
Bet they are.
And are finding it invaluable in terms of being able to bring teams together by being able to focus on the right things.
And you could get to the stage, you probably already are, where you could actually test messaging and ideas because you've got that ready test bed of people willing and able to be asked the right questions.
That's absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've done that on a number of occasions with change programs, with ideas that we've been thinking about, with our head of innovation talking about what about this, what about that as a route to go and being able to just get that insight on a range of different subjects that can be about colleague engagement, can be about product innovation, can be about whatever it is that we're doing next in any of our chosen areas. It's really valuable.
As you say, on the surface, it doesn't look like a new idea because we've talked about communication champions. We've talked about internal influencers for years. But I think what's different here is that you've actually gone and systematically worked out how to make this happen. Can you talk a little bit about some of the first steps that you took? Because it started with a pilot, although I'm assuming even before you got to the pilot, there must have been quite a bit of socialising leaders with the idea, I guess?
Yeah, definitely. So it's definitely not a new idea. And you and I have talked about this before. So, credit to you for Cascade Conversation, because when I read that book 10 years ago.
Yeah, 10 years.
I went, wouldn't it be amazing if you could make this work? I
remember you coming to me saying, I'd like to do this, please. And I was like, all right, then.
And then I also, I remember reading, do you remember SCM and Melcrum?
Yes.
Right. So I remember reading a report, Viral Communication in the Workplace. Right. I've still got a copy of that, published in 2013.
I think I've read that for the communicating organisation.
Yeah, exactly.
For Cascade Conversation, yeah.
And then other works by people like Leandro Herrera.
Yes.
Peter Mandena's work on human connection. And most recently, People-Centered IC by Emma Bridger and Lee Smith.
Who have been on the show.
There you are. Right. So all of this stuff is there. And that's what I mean. It's not a new idea, but it is the right time. And it's the right time because of those social shifts that we're talking about. And where does trust come in? It's also right in terms of the shift in demographic in our organisations as well.
Right.
And it's also right in terms of timing because I think people need organisations that they work for to play a different role in their lives than they used to. And that's driven out of all of those societal shifts and everything else that's going on. So that was part of the argument for doing this.
Nice, yeah.
That was definitely part of the argument. And it was kind of reflected by some of the cultural shifts that we wanted to make in our organisation as well.
Yeah.
So the way that we approached it, yes, we did a pilot, but I first of all went to talk to our exec team and said, this is what I think we should be doing in terms of internal communication. And I have to give them an enormous amount of credit for saying, how will you make this work? In fact, don't answer that question because I don't think we'll understand it. But we trust you.
Amazing.
And so that was the point at which I kind of thought, oh, right, so I really do have to do this now. Because in my head, I can see how it works, right? But actually turning that into reality was the thing. And that is the point at which, I called you and went, Katie, how do you feel about making this real? And as you know, we use some of your consultancy, we use some consultancy from other people, just in terms of thinking about what does it actually look like in real life? And then we opened with a pilot. Across our America's organisation. So our organisation is organised geographically.
Yes.
Americas, EMEA, APAC. And we wanted to do this in a geography that was big enough for us to be able to say, yes, it's big and it's complex and there are enough people in it.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that we could test translation.
Yes.
So we got 3 languages in the Americas.
Yes.
And then I also wanted to be able to test the technology as well. And so we started with a pilot in the Americas. And I think that the pilot has really allowed us to refine the model. And if I'm being completely honest, it's allowed us to define the model in a number of areas as well.
Okay.
So the idea was the idea.
Yes.
And we conceptually understood what we were trying to achieve. We found our connectors. We gave them the training and we put in place some of the things which are now, the backbone of the model. And then since then, we've been tweaking it. And we've been redefining and reworking it. And it's now up and running across the Americas as a business as usual. This is how we do communication.
Brilliant.
And this year we will be implementing it across our other 2 geographies as well with those learnings. But I think the other thing about it is, like anything that's organic, it evolves.
Yes, and it should. Yeah.
And it is still evolving.
Yes.
And we still get, feedback from our connectors going, this could be better if. And we haven't kind of gone to them and gone, here's the model, that's how you make it work. We've gone, here is our model. It is the pilot. We need you to help us figure out how to make it work. And that's a very different approach in itself because we don't have the answer on this one. And I don't think anybody would disagree that communication is a human, organic, and
fluid
and not perfect sort of thing. So we've enlisted them in what we're trying to do, explained what we're trying to do, and some of the people that we identified as connectors went, no, that's not for me. But the ones who did come along have really helped us to shape and refine that. And interestingly, some of those people who said, no, it's not for me at the beginning, have then come back and gone, actually, I would quite like to. And so, yeah, we're up and running, and it's working really well.
A little bit on the detail, just in case anyone's listening and thinking, how do I find my connectors? It was a short survey, wasn't it, that you asked everyone to complete just 3 or 4 questions about who they trust at work, who's a trusted source of information, those kinds of questions.
Exactly, yeah. Three questions in the survey. Questions in the survey.
Yeah.
That did that. And then and this is part of refining the model. So when we first did it, we used the snowball sampling technique, and that took a number of weeks for us to get to them. What we've done since then is we've taken the amount of time that it takes dramatically down by using network analysis on the first cut of the results that we get. And that allows us to identify those connectors much more quickly and get to them. And then we, as I say, we invite them in and we give them a briefing and we get going from that point.
But what's so important is that they have been nominated by their peers.
Absolutely. And that's a really important thing. So thank you for reminding me to mention that. It's one of the things that our connectors say is most important to them.
It really is. I've spoken to them about this. Yes.
The recognition by their peers.
Yes.
It really touches them.
Yes.
And many of our connectors have said, I wouldn't have been involved in this programme had it not been for the fact that actually my colleagues said I'm this kind of person. So it means an awful lot to those people to be recognised by their peers. Absolutely does.
And there's this value exchange going on here, isn't there? Which I think we just need to underline here for people that, yes, on behalf of the organisation, they are those nodes that are listening, sharing. They've got this access to leaders, though, which is giving them something, as well as the training, as well as the support materials around it. Because I think this is something we forget sometimes when we think about traditional influencers or champions. It's what can you do for the organisation? But here, hopefully, people are actually thinking, I'm getting something out of this on a personal level as well. Is that kind of the feedback you're getting?
Yeah, I think that is right. And I was really, really clear that these were not going to be influencers.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you about that because you've not called them that.
Deliberately.
Yes.
Deliberately. And when we were first explaining the idea to our exec, somebody said, so they'll be like influencers on social media. And I had to kind of stop for a minute and go, no, they're not. And think about why they're not.
Yeah.
And they're not because I do not want a network of people who are there to, what the cynics would say, is spread propaganda.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
These people are connectors because colleagues trust them. They've got their own opinions and they talk about things knowledgeably and set context, understanding what their colleagues around them really think and believe. So treating them as influencers is wrong because what we will lose then is that real sense of insight into what's really going on in people's minds. The moment somebody becomes an influencer, they're a mouthpiece for that organisation.
Yeah.
And what we want them to be is a mouthpiece for the conversation that's already happening in the organisation.
Nice.
So we can give them information, we can give them access to leadership so that what they're talking about is the right version of the truth.
Yes.
But it's in their own words and it's with their own spin.
Yeah.
And it's with their own opinions, attitudes and understanding of the colleagues around them. So they may disagree. But now they're disagreeing with a full set of facts.
Yeah. And they've got a forum, if they do disagree, to actually challenge a leader in a very safe environment to say, I'm not sure this is really landing the right way, or I don't really understand it, or it might be just you're explaining it in the wrong way, or have you thought about why?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we've got a great example of that in some of the organisational changes that we made last year. We've all been through organisational changes. We've all got the benefit of, multiple kind of runs at these things to be able to put together what we think is best practice. And the thing is that every single one of those changes is different because the people are different, the cultures are different, the time is different, whatever.
Yeah.
They're all different and you have to tweak them. So we were able to take the feedback from our connectors in that area directly to our leadership team to make them have the conversation, to make the space for them to have the conversation, so that then they could give them that feedback about, actually, this doesn't work like this. Here is why, and here is what you need to do differently. And I mean, that's delicate stuff. It's emotional stuff. And yet as a result of it, because we trained our connectors in how to have those challenging conversations in a respectful way, they were able to deliver the feedback.
Yes.
And as a result of that, our leaders who were then involved in the next stages of communication on those changes were able to adapt what they were doing and to land it in a more successful way than I've ever seen change communications ever land.
Wow. It's interesting because you said there were a few prerequisites to launching this. It needed to be an organisation with a clear sense of purpose, and that purpose needed properly embedded in the organisation. It needed to have this inclusive culture. But as I come back to this idea that you've done it in an engineering environment, I don't think it's the first place you'd think of a big initiative like this, with full of these sort of left brain people who, like process and systems and things being tested already. Your leadership, and I've been really fortunate enough to meet a few of them, they are rather special people. I mean, they really are. They're very bright. They're very switched on. In fact, they're not left brain and right, but they've got both going on here. So, I was just going to ask you about whether anyone listening to this is thinking, could it work inside my organisation? Can you just share a little bit about what your leadership's like so that people can think, it might happen here. I've got those kinds of people.
Yes. So I think that the culture I encountered at Spirax Group when I first arrived there is quite unlike anything else I've seen before. But there are other organisations out there like it.
Yes.
So it is inclusive. It does have a people first culture.
Right. Okay.
And its leaders are very, very conscious of the responsibility to lead people in a way that is aligned with our values. So many organisations, as we know, aren't great at actually living the values, but our organisation is. And I think that that is part of the prerequisite.
Yes.
It needs that inclusive culture. It needs to be values led, and it needs leaders who see themselves as guardians of that culture.
Right. Okay.
And our leaders will often talk about the fact that it's a special place to work. And what makes it special for them is different for each of them. But it's broadly on a theme of care for each other. And I think that potentially one of the things that drives that is the fact that it's an engineering company. Because the first thing that you have to get right in an engineering company is safety.
Of course. And
so that spreads itself through the organisation through that sense of care.
That's really interesting.
Now, what we've done, and I say we because I'm part of the organisation, I'm not claiming to have done it, but what the organisation has done is to embed that sense of care for people. And I think it drives out of the fact that it's safety first. But that has allowed us to build on that, thinking about psychological safety. Yeah. Which is, comes out of the inclusive culture, but it also comes out of that safety first mentality. But without psychological safety, the communicating organisation cannot work. Because the psychological safe environment is what allows people to speak up and to challenge and to do so in a way that they don't have any fear of recrimination. It's not going to come back to them. And it's also okay for people to go, I just don't get this. Yes. And to have it explained to them. Yeah. So that then they can go, and the reason I don't get it is because that bit doesn't work. And engineers are really good at doing that. They're not always very good at doing it in a respectful, challenging, in a way that allows them to challenge respectfully.
Yeah.
Some of them are brilliant at it, but others are less so. And there's the left brain, right brain kind of thing.
Yeah. It's what you're describing is the farthest point of maturity, I think, in terms of internal communication, but also organisational culture. And I think for me, you're also talking about the farthest end of maturity in terms of what work should be like. I genuinely believe this. I mean, and I think you started with this, you know, we spend a lot of our life at work.
Yeah.
And my goodness me, we live in I think in an age where people want purpose and meaning at work. And that's not just our great employees that our organisation employs, that's us as well.
Yeah.
Has this changed your view of your profession? Has it made you feel even more inspired about what you do? What's been the personal impact on you of this?
I guess that it has been a really privileged, a really great privilege to be able to do this, because it does go right to the heart of what I think is important about what we do in internal communications. And so personally, I feel like I have made a difference to some people at work. I don't know how many people, but I do kind of think that, you know, if you change the world for only one person, you've changed the world.
Exactly.
And I know that for a number of people in our organisation, this has fundamentally changed the way that they think about coming to work.
Wow.
And I can point to our engagement statistics.
Yes, yes.
So across the Americas, we see greater scores for engagement. We see greater scores for leadership communication. We see greater scores for connection in terms of why am I here and what is my purpose.
Wow.
But those are numbers, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about people.
Yeah.
And the sense of being part of something greater, the sense of meaning, the sense of this is worthwhile that I get from people who are acting as connectors, but then their teams around them as well. It's really quite moving in some ways. We do seem to have galvanized a kind of movement here.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of the questions I got asked earlier on, so a little aside here, one of the questions I got asked early on was, how many connectors do you need? And I didn't know, right? So went and did a little bit of reading, and there's a lady called Erica Chenoweth who works out of Harvard who said that for any social movement to take hold and to make a difference, you need between 3 and 5% of the population. So there was my answer. I need between 3 and 5% of my population. And so that's what we looked for. So, but the influence of those people,
exactly,
our connectors, their influence goes, it's like ripples in a pond. So their immediate team and then the people around them, it's making a big difference because people understand, feel better connected, and I think it is delivering that moment I talked about where you get that sense of shared purpose. We're all working on this, whatever it is, together. Here's why it's important to me. And I understand why it's important to you. And that might be different, but actually this helps us both. So let's get on with it.
This sense of shared endeavour,
Yes.
I think it's just... Yeah, you're making me think of a little exercise I used to do years ago when I used to get people to shut their eyes and imagine when they felt most motivated at work.
Yeah.
And the first thing that came to mind when they describe, I say, well, describe what you're thinking the moment. It could have been last year, 10 years ago. There is always this very strong sense that we were in it together. We felt something collective in terms of where we were going and the goal and the objective that we were working on, and we were sharing it. So I think so important. You touched on engagement there, and your engagement scores going up in the pilot areas compared to the other areas, which is a sort of a sign that was working. How else have you tackled the measurement thing around this?
Measurements are the perennial thorn in our side, isn't it? So I was very, very certain that you could not measure this by looking at, I don't know, the number of conversations that people had, or the number of posts they put on our social platform, or the likes or shares or whatever. It'd be easy to measure that, wouldn't it?
And you have seen those go up.
We have seen those go up.
Yeah.
But what I was really keen to do was to link the internal comms strategy to our business strategy.
Yes.
So our business strategy was all about the areas, the sectors that we wanted to help our customers to drive greater sustainability gains. And so focusing in on those sectors in different parts of the world, different sectors, but in the Americas, we were clear what we wanted to do. So that was one of the outcomes I wanted to look at, and to see what our connectors and the teams around them were doing that could be linked to those goals being achieved.
Yeah.
So what we saw was the implementation of new product innovation more quickly.
Wow.
What we saw was people sharing ideas across different sales organizations.
Yeah, amazing.
In terms of, how did you approach this contract win? This is what we did. Let's take that there.
Amazing. Yeah.
And we saw as well that one of the products made in another part of our group had components made by one of our competitors, and that was spotted by one of our connectors in a briefing on the new product's introduction. And as a result of that, they were able to connect with people in our manufacturing teams and our design teams who were now looking at swapping out those components for ones that we make ourselves.
Whoa.
This stuff wouldn't happen.
No way.
Otherwise. And these are kind of small examples, but there are lots of these small examples. So I am gathering these examples to be able to say, that's what this has done.
Oh my goodness me.
Correlation isn't causation.
No, but do we care? It's done this. Either way.
It is definitely driving the conversations,
exactly.
which has meant that we've seen innovation adopted more quickly in the Americas area. We have seen that the sales organizations are sharing their approaches across language barriers as well as across geography.
Amazing.
And we have seen this kind of, we could do that differently. We could do this differently.
Yeah.
Coming along. In our first kind of months of the pilot, we saw that, as many organizations do, we had a cost challenge in one particular quarter. We saw that the geography that we were in achieved a greater percentage of cost saving than the others.
Wow.
And all that we did was ask our connectors to talk about what could we do to save cost with their colleagues.
Amazing.
And I think that in that particular instance, because it came from their connector colleagues rather than top down, it had a greater impact. So it's that sort of thing.
It's nirvana, really, because when we talk about how do you measure internal comms, there's always this output-outcome split. Yeah. And it's so easy to do outputs, likes, shares, relikes, whatever it is, and then the outcomes. Are we actually changing performance for the better? So you can actually demonstrate this. This is incredible.
So, but I think what we're doing is we're changing the underlying conditions.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So I cannot hand on heart say our approach to doing internal comms differently has delivered this performance improvement. What I can say is that it has changed the underlying conditions in the organisation that has enabled better performance.
I was going to say it's an enabler.
Absolutely.
That's what it is, an enabler. Yeah. And the whole point of From Cascade to Conversation was this theory that we were going to get to an age, and this is 10 years ago, so it's quite funny actually, we probably are here now, where most things an organisation does could be replicated like that by a competitor. The only thing that an organisation really had that was special was what's going on in here.
Yeah.
But how often do we really tap into the tens of thousands of people and what is going on in here to get them to open up, to share, to be honest, to whatever it is? And that's why I still get so excited by this initiative, because it really is exactly doing that. I think it's incredible. Do you think there is a slightly subversive aspect to this, in the sense that it is very different? First of all, it isn't communication from the corporate centre out. So it's not that one-way broadcast, which I know we've been trying to move away from for years. The other thing is that's maybe slightly subversive is, and I think it's going to shock people, Colin, how many people do you have in your team who are running this pilot?
Okay, so there are just two of us.
I mean, that alone. What? Just two?
There are just two of us.
Jessica's amazing.
Oh,
I think we just need to give Jessica a bit of a high five at this moment.
Completely, actually. And in fairness, she is a fantastic compliment to the way that I work, which tends to be a little less structured, whereas Jessica's very structured. And so together we do make I think, a pretty powerful team, actually. And it is because of Jessica that we have come so far. So thank you to her. Subversive. Is it subversive? Well, I don't know. What is subversive? It does allow for people to challenge leadership, but we've done that in a respectful way. It does mean that the control of the message that you imagine you might have in a central cascade is completely gone. But you never really had that control anyway, to be honest. And that was actually one of the conversations that I had with our exec when they said, but we won't be able to control the message. And I said, well, you never did.
No,
you never did.
No.
The moment it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
This way, at least you can figure out what people think you mean.
Exactly. Yeah.
And have the opportunity to have a conversation about that.
Yeah.
So is it subversive? Well, I don't know. I think it depends on how you think about power dynamics in organisation.
Exactly.
And for me, in our organisation, it doesn't feel subversive. It feels like a natural kind of growth of our culture.
Yeah.
I think in some organisations it might be. And that would depend on how command and control your organisation is.
Yeah.
And so it would be a threat to that sense of command and control. But at the same time, the insight that you get, the knowledge that you have about what's really going on in the organisation, it allows you to move as a leader in different ways than you would have expected. So as well as the communication process being totally different, I think it gives leaders that insight and that knowledge that they wouldn't have otherwise had. And so for me, that doesn't feel particularly subversive.
Has there been, did all leaders get it equally? And obviously you're going to have new leaders come in and, this is already going to be rolling and you're going to have to explain what it is. And it isn't always immediately obvious because they may not have seen it before. They may understand the theory but not seen it in practice. How have you developed the argument if you have had pushback? Has it been that you actually are going to benefit as a leader? You're going to have more insight, more knowledge, a way of testing your ideas. Has it been that, or how have you?
Well, as we've gone on, I mean, we've now got the proof points that show the difference it makes.
Yeah,
so we are able to talk about those. I think leadership changes have meant that actually we've had to kind of go back and explain it again.
Yeah.
We've now got the benefit of a better understanding ourselves of how the model works, because initially it was a concept rather than here's how it's going to work. So we are better able to explain it than we ever were. And we've got the proof points. I still think that when we have leadership changes, we do have to spend time explaining the model, what their role in it is, what they will need to do to get the best out of it.
Yes.
And I think that what we've seen is that unless a leader actually gets exposed to it or immersed in it in some way, even then it's difficult to kind of grasp what's going on.
Okay.
And I think amongst our leadership team, we've got those who are immersed in it because it's in their part of the world, who are kind of going, this is, something I've never seen before. It's really working for us. We need more of it. We've got those outside the pilot area who've been exposed to it because they've been part of one of the briefings and the question and answer sessions. And they have a better understanding of it and have seen the results and believe in it. And then we've got those who have been less exposed to it.
Yeah.
And we're still having those conversations with them. I'm not getting a, no, we don't want to do this. I'm getting a, I don't understand it. And that's fine. That's for me to explain.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your grand vision? Can you imagine where we could be inside this organisation in, I don't know, 3 to 5 years when this is everywhere, right across the world? What would the organisation look like? What would it feel like coming to work, the Spirax Group, in that situation, do you think?
Well, the simplest answer from a colleague point of view is that moment that we're talking about, where you get that sense of everybody being connected. We all know what we're doing and it's exciting and we're all working on it together. What I think that looks like for the organisation is it's much more fast moving. It's dynamic. Ideas flow. Conversations make performance a reality. We don't lose knowledge because somebody leaves.
Yeah.
We see it retained in the organisation because there's a shared network of conversation that keeps that knowledge alive. So those are the kinds of things that I see happening.
Yeah, really, you're describing and a place where people are going to want to stay as well.
Yeah.
I think retention rates would go up in a situation like that. So someone listening to this is getting very excited, I hope, about the thought that they might have the right organisation and those prerequisites, if only I could say that word. But is there something you wish you knew at the beginning that you know now? Or is there one mistake you think, oh, it'd be very easy to make that mistake, so I'd advise you not to do this? What could you tell them with the benefit of what you know now to prevent maybe them putting their foot in their mouths at any point in this process?
I think one of the biggest learnings that we had was that in the early days, the model is not self-sustaining.
Right, okay.
And it needs help.
Right.
And as you pointed out, we are a very small comms team.
Yeah.
So what we needed to do was to group our connectors into small teams.
Right.
So that they could work together. And that made it more self-sustaining. So we grouped them into small teams, usually by geography or common language, so that then they could continue to talk about what was going on and how to make changes when we were outside of our usual touch points with them. Yeah. So that gave it a bit more of a regular cadence for people in the pilot, but it also gave them the opportunity to talk without the comms team being in the room.
Interesting. About
what was going on in their own language in a way that made sense for them, so that when we did have our next touch point, they were better informed. Now, that was something that we came to, I would say, perhaps after 3 or 4 months of operation. And what that meant for us was that we could dial down our involvement on the keeping it going and feeding it, because it became more self-sustaining. So I think that was one of the big learnings. It does need some level of personal responsibility amongst the connector network to drive it.
But as you said, because they've been nominated by their peers, and they feel that sense of obligation and excitement having, been nominated, they probably do feel that they're up for the challenge, basically.
I think so, yeah. And some of them are clearly more active than others and are quite happy to lead those small groups. Yes,
absolutely. It's truly exciting, Colin.
I think so. It really has been astonishing to see how it's taken off and how it works and the difference it makes to those people who are directly involved and the people around them. It's quite astounding.
I wonder also what it spells for us as an internal comms profession. There are two of you and you've got a global organisation and you are creating the capability to communicate embedded inside the organisation. Of course you are, I'm sure, still doing other commsy stuff that we all need to do at times. But that is potentially the biggest shift, isn't it? You are capability building inside the business. Yeah. You are replicating your skills, as it were, or the communicating skills of individuals. So that's a huge shift in terms of what we do in as internal comms people. It
is, and it's it's teach a man to fish or teach a person to fish, isn't it?
Exactly.
For me, I think that communication is one of the skills that if human beings possess, they have the power to change the world around them. And so for me, supporting our connectors with greater communication skills was part of it. But it has allowed us to shape a communications capability package for our senior leaders and managers who are involved in the network. But also, one of the realizations I had was that, well, actually, why wouldn't we give everybody some communications capability as well?
Nice.
But, and I guess this is where it could be a little bit subversive. Because I think that if you understand the way to respectfully challenge, if you understand the way that you can look at something critically and go, that doesn't work for me because, but I accept you might have a different point of view. And I can disagree with you without falling out with you, then actually those skills will not stay in the workplace.
Exactly. Society needs those skills.
They will spread out into the world, and society needs those skills too today, more than ever before. They're skills that we've lost or are losing. And so there is a little bit of subversion in there. And I think that, well, if that leaks out into the world, then that's not such a bad thing.
Fantastic, Colin. This episode of the Internal Comms podcast is brought to you by my very own Friday update. Would you like a short email from me, never more than just 5 bullet points long, giving you my take on the week's news from across the world of communications? This might be the latest reports, books, campaigns, conferences that have caught my eye during the week. I always limit myself to just 5 nuggets of news so you can read it in record time, but still feel hopefully a little bit more informed and a little bit more uplifted as you end your week. Now, this is subscriber content only, which was initially intended just for AB colleagues and clients. I don't post this content anywhere else. So you do need to sign up, but that is super easy. Simply go to abcom, that's abcom.co.uk/Friday. We just need your email address. And it is equally easy to unsubscribe anytime. So why not give it a go? That sign up page again, abcom.co.uk/Friday. And if you do choose to be a subscriber, I very much look forward to being in touch. I'm going to head over to those quick fire questions and put you on the spot even more, if that's okay.
Yes.
So the first question is, what trait or personal characteristic has most contributed to your career success, Colin, do you think?
Firstly, I'm flattered that you think my career has been a success. At times I thought I was just stumbling along in the direction. I know the moment that I think I turned from that stumbling into a direction. And that's that time when I was standing there in the trench on that January day, when I realised what my job was there to do. And that was the moment when I realised I hadn't been doing it right up until that point. So I think that's the moment. And there's a concept called post-traumatic growth. I don't know if you've ever come across this.
No, but I can understand it.
And it talks about having to go through something that causes you significant trauma in order that you can grow personally from it. Now, I talked about the fact that I'd parted ways with the company, but also in the short few months before that, I'd had 2 personal bereavements. And so I was dealing with quite a lot of loss. That was the moment where I had managed to deal with all of those losses and become future oriented in terms of what I was thinking. And that concept of post-traumatic growth, enabling people to suddenly switch to be the better version of themselves, is kind of what I think happened to me.
How significant was it that you weren't at work when you had that moment?
Oh, very significant, because I was doing something complete. My brain was idling, and those are the moments, aren't they?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Those are the moments where your brain is just tootling away for itself. You know, I was thinking about where the concrete was going and where these steel reinforcement rods were supposed to be, because I knew I was getting it wrong. And I knew I was getting it wrong because the builder was shouting at me. And I think it's those moments we talk about, you know, when you're dropping off to sleep, or maybe in the shower, or just while you're thinking or not thinking about something else. And that for me was, I think those moments are important. That's where our subconscious sometimes gets in touch, isn't it? To say, hello, have you thought about this?
So step away from the problem, I think, is a really good piece of advice. Is there a belief about communication that you've changed your mind on over the years?
It's a tricky question, isn't it? Because I think that we should all question our beliefs all the time, especially the ones that we've held for a long time.
It's good. That's very good advice.
But a belief about communication was in the early days of my career, last century. I love being able to say that. I used to believe that, you know, whatever had happened, the communicator could make a good story out of it. I don't believe that anymore.
I'm thinking, because I think I thought that too. Yeah, you're going back to the 90s though, aren't you?
Yeah.
When we genuinely did think that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not true.
It's not true.
A bad story is a bad story. You just need to tell it truthfully.
Yeah. Well, that was in the old days when they used to call it spin.
Oh, God,
And you could spin your way out of it. We never did.
No.
Who were we kidding? We weren't kidding anyone.
We didn't kid anyone, did we?
We weren't.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's a belief I've changed.
Yeah. And actually, what is so funny now is that we realise that when it is a bad story, the best thing to say is, this is not good.
Yeah.
And really fall on your sword about it early, fast, before anyone else does, in a very open way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, and say sorry.
Oh, yes. And why did we think that we would get into trouble by saying sorry?
I don't know. It's clearly nonsense, isn't it? Because we knew when we were kids, if you said sorry, it usually made it better. But suddenly then we were. I think it was something to do with lawyers.
I think I was just about to say the L word. I think it might have been as well. Is there a book or a podcast or a toolkit or something that you would recommend listeners take a look at?
So the book I go back to, right, it's the first book that really kind of opened my eyes to internal communications. And it is as relevant today as when I first read it, is Making the Connections by Bill Quirk.
Good old Bill.
You know, that book contains everything you need to know.
It really does.
It's written in a really approachable way. Yeah. It has all of the knowledge you need. It talks about real life situations and gives you the ability to step through them in a really clear way. I think that book is, it's been my Bible over the years. I still go back to it.
It was so ahead of its time. Yeah. And I'm going to do listeners a favour because in the show notes, we are going to put the link to Bill's episode. He was very early on. I think he might have been episode 6 or 7, something like that.
Wow.
But in real life, very funny.
Oh, yeah.
Very plain speaking.
Yeah.
Just brilliant.
Yeah.
It was an honour to interview him. It really was. Thank you for that. And finally, on the show, you get your own billboard for millions to see. And you can put on this, Colin, any message you like. What's going on your billboard?
Well, so I clearly have listened to this show. So I knew this question was coming. And I got stuck because there are several things that I wanted my billboard to say. So I'm going to run you through what they are.
Great.
And
I love
then
this.
I think we'll try and distill it down a little
vote.
bit.
No,
Right. Okay. So the first thing is a Margaret Mead quote.
Yes.
Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed individuals can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has. So I love that because that goes right to the heart of actually what we've been talking about. Then, right, because I think the man, he just impressed me all the time. Any time I heard him speak, he seemed to be so wise. So Desmond Tutu.
Yeah.
Do your little bit of good where you are. It's those little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world.
Oh, wow.
You see, I love that. I love that one. Then my third one is Marianne Williamson. So this one was quoted by Nelson Mandela in, I think, it might have been his inauguration speech or one of the speeches while he was president. Anyway, Marianne Williamson, a poem, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be?" I love that. So then I tried to kind of, distill all of that down, and I couldn't. So I'm giving you all three of those. And for me, it's really the sum of it is whatever you do today has the power to change the world, even if it's for one person. So go carefully and be purposeful about it. And when you look back in 10 years' time, be sure you'll be proud of yourself.
Oh, Colin, no one's ever said that on this show before. What a way to end it. That's fantastic. I love that so much.
Thank you.
I've got to add, and we can cut this out at the end, Joe, if you feel like you need to cut this out. But Desmond Tutu also said, and it's so relevant to the the program you've been talking about, that at some point we've got to stop pulling people out of the river and go upstream and work out why they're falling in. And I thought, wow, what you're doing is you're working above the problem. You're working on the meta problem of how organisations communicate, which is how individuals talk to each other.
Exactly.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is an added bonus for listeners as well.
Thank you very much.
Listen, this has been amazing conversation. Thank you so much.
I've really enjoyed it. Thanks for the chance to talk about what I've been doing. It means a lot to me to be able to share that.
Thank you so much. So that is a wrap for this episode of the Internal Comms podcast. My thanks to Colin for a really fascinating conversation. And of course, the dream team behind the scenes, Freddie, Amir and Joe, for keeping this show on the road week after week. And indeed, all my colleagues at AB that helped so much with putting this show together. But a heartfelt thanks especially to you for tuning in, because this show would be nothing without you. We now reach Internal Comms folks in more than 55 countries around the world and have nearly 500,000 downloads. And that's all thanks to such lovely, loyal listeners. If you did enjoy this episode, it would be great if you could like, rate, blog, comment on it. It just helps other IC folk find our show. Everything you need in terms of show notes is on AB's website. So head over to abcom, abcomm.co.uk. You will find our podcast page there and our entire back catalogue of more than 100 episodes, probably one for every IC challenge you might be facing at the moment. So until we meet again, lovely listeners, stay safe and well. And remember, It's what's inside that counts.